I just opened the episode intro up in Adobe, and some of the words have been replaced with. Yeah, I wrote this whole thing about how spooky is, but then it twisted around, and the big reveal was.
Oh, that's great. So what happened?
Well, it seems like someone's claimed ownership of the words and now Adobe don't have the license, and you have to pay extra to say those words.
I'm not paying to say.
Well, I guess we'll just have to scrap the whole fuck.
Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women just have a bit of a catch-up about our weeks and the media we've consumed and try and make each other have a bit of a giggle.
Two queer snuggly little beans.
Yeah.
Look at us in our dressing gowns and our blankets.
I mean, look, winter is arriving, the cold weather is coming, and we have blankets.
No one can afford to turn their heating on.
We have dressing gowns and blankets, and this is how it will be for the next, I'm going to say, four months.
Well, if Smudge looks out of the window and sees her shadow, then maybe there will be an extra month of winter. Who knows?
Oh, who knows? Well, if we look at the topic list and see some things we've played, we know what that means. What you played this week?
Oh, I'm starting. I'm still getting on with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Really enjoying it still. It was interesting that I got to finish the fourth Divine Beast, and at that point it was like, hey, you can go and do the expansion pack Champions Ballad stuff now.
Yay! Getting to do that stuff while the game isn't finished so that you can enjoy the motorcycle while you still have some game left.
I mean, I haven't got as far as unlocking the motorcycle yet, but I have done the bit where you have to go around the Great Plateau and fight like 4 encampments of enemies without taking a single hit.
Oh yeah.
Like that's a fun little challenge. It's like, yes, all the health I've been wearing up, all the armor I've been powering up and working on.
Yeah, since you got back to that bit, I've been thinking about that content, and it really does feel like that content fits a lot better during the adventure than on a completed 100%ed save file.
Yes, because that is when I originally played it.
Yeah, same. Like, and so many of the things in that in the DLC for that game feel like they do a lot more if you're starting a fresh save.
Yeah.
Like the little line that tracks where you've been and haven't been and sort of your path through the world and all that stuff. So much more useful if you use it not on a save file that you've only just earned that ability.
The fact that you can go and find Midna's helmet and it's Guardian resistant at a level of I think it's like 1-star
being
ancient armor.
Yep, being able to get the mask that shakes whenever Korok seeds are around.
Yeah, I haven't got to that bit yet, but I know where to find it.
Yeah.
So, I've got the Phantom Ganon armor, I've got the Majora's Mask, I've got Midna's helmet, I've got the Garb of the Winds, the lobster shirt from Wind Waker. I've got a few bits going on now, still trying to find a few more bits. And in sort of process of trying to find some of those bits, I've found some more of the normal shrines.
Yeah.
But it was a nice little section of like, I could really do with a few more hearts. Oh, there's just like 4 bonus shrines here to do.
Yeah.
To fill in a gap, and they're right near each other, so that'll be really easy to get to. Although some of those, like the actual shrines, like, yes, you've done all the difficulty of getting into the shrine. Now you're still going to have to battle through the inside of the shrine or do the puzzles. And there's one in there where you're dumped into a room with 4 guardians, like the mini guardians.
Yeah.
And you've got to like just dash around that room and find a good way around it without dying with your one-hit weapon and your no health. and no access to Rivali's Gale, because it would have just been so much easier to be able to like get some air and fly over bits of that room, but no, the number of times that I died, not because I'd been hit by anything, but because I'd misjudged a jump and just fallen off the platform.
Yeah.
Got there in the end though.
Nice.
I'm I'm actually enjoying this, I think, more than the first time I played. Partly
I
because I haven't tried to just climb mountains all the time.
Yeah, I need to, as I keep saying on the show, I need to do a replay of it, but definitely not until after Pokemon's out of the way. Like, maybe in the start of next year I'll have space for it in the gameplay. And
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit long for us to do one as to play together. Maybe if we ever get to retire.
Like, I could see us maybe doing it together at some point, but it would probably have to be a bit more of a focused run. I don't know.
I mean, it's like days and days and days and days and days.
Maybe it's just one we would chip away at a little bit at a time.
Maybe. Yeah, and I'm probably more inclined to give that a third playthrough than, say, going back to the first one.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Yes, we wouldn't be anywhere without you, but God, that game is
Obtuse.
obtuse, grueling, and
Unforgiving.
And at this point, you kind of do have to play it with a guide because you don't have that interaction of just being able to like go into school or chat to friends and be like, "Hi, I've got to this bit."
Or literally infinite time.
Yeah, don't have that.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel like you kind of have to play through it with a guide for the best experience.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I'll get this one out the way quickly because I've played a little bit of it, but like not completed it yet. I've played the first 2 episodes of New Tales from the Borderlands, which is Tales from the Borderlands was, I would say, probably the best Telltale game that ever got made.
Mhm.
As someone that like doesn't really give a shit about Borderlands generally as a franchise, I thought that the original Tales from the Borderlands really did a good job of standing on its own without needing to know the rest of the sort of canon of that universe.
Mhm.
Had a really good sense and pacing of humor, was very sweet, very endearing. New Tales from the Borderlands is technically a sequel, but it's very much made to be like, if you never played the first one, that's fine.
Mhm.
A character from the first one shows up early in the first episode, but if you don't know that they're from the first one, that's fine. It's not made by Telltale, who broke up, and then sort of a new company was formed with that name. This isn't by them. This is
Okay.
just Gearbox, who make the first-person shooter
Yeah.
Borderlands, is trying to make a Telltale game.
Yes.
Episode 1, I enjoyed way more than I anticipated.
Mhm.
I really thought that the first episode does a good job of blending humor and like relatable, emotion-driven narratives.
Mhm.
Really good at building connections between characters that make sense, and really fun interpersonal dynamics that make sense as a group going on a shared adventure, but also have unique, distinct dynamic between like whichever pairs of characters you have interacting with each other. Really, really, really like the first episode. It's got a trans character. It's got some. I'm pretty sure you're setting up a very interesting gay relationship there.
Yay.
The first episode, real good. Second episode, I enjoyed, but with a lot more caveats.
Okay.
It did some really interesting things.
Mhm.
Without spoiling too much, having played the original Tales from the Borderlands and some other Borderlands games, there is a thing that I thought would be like the end of episode 5, like where the narrative would be building to. That happens in like the second episode. And I'm like, that's actually a really confident move, and I'm very curious what you do with your 3 remaining episodes now. It is an interesting, bold choice. I think that it's generally still well written, enjoyable, good comedic pacing.
Mhm.
My problem with the second episode, and I'm hoping that it's just a slightly wobbly second episode and that like it'll smooth itself out over 3 through 5,
Yeah.
is that one of the characters who I really enjoyed probably the most in episode 1 becomes a little one-note and flanderized in episode 2. And like toward the end of episode 2, they sort of break out of it a bit.
Mhm.
But for like, I'm gonna say like 2/3, 3/4 of episode 2, my favorite character, Fran, woman who owns a frozen yogurt, a froyo shop, it got blown up by terrible, shitty corporation. Then shitty corporation refused to pay the insurance on the building to get it repaired, and then that corporation blew it up a second time. Good, angry, anti-capitalist energy from this froyo shop owner.
Understandable.
Like 3/4 of the second episode, she just gets kind of pigeonholed as, I am angry and want to murder things.
Right.
Which, like, is a lot less nuanced and layered than her characterization was in episode 1. That was a lot more
Right.
interesting. And, like, toward the end of episode 2, they kind of pull it back and she gets some fun quips that are to do with her sort of implying that she's into BDSM and likes women and making some fun puns around that.
Right.
And, like, the end of the episode gave me some hope that, like, okay, you just had someone who was, like, phoning it in a bit for episode 2, for a bit of episode 2, but, like, you can do other stuff with her. I want to see where that goes. Generally, still really enjoying it, just... Episode 2 was definitely a bit wobblier, but it did set up something, like, a really interesting narrative. Ooh, I did not expect that soon. And I am very interested to see where it goes. So, yeah, new Tales from the Borderlands. I'll probably, by next week, have finished playing through all the episodes. Tentatively interested. What about you? What have you played this week?
Well, we have a big box of Everdell.
We do.
The tableau building worker placement board game. With adorable animals.
Yep.
We have all of that game now. All that exists.
Yes, we do.
Apart from the plastic containers for putting all the tokens in. But I didn't think we needed that because we have adorable little pastry
We've got
cases.
little silicone cupcake cups.
Yeah. So, figured we better start playing some of it.
Yep, that we certainly did play like 3 games of Everdell this weekend.
We did, and I won one of them. Yay!
You did!
Yay! Yeah. So the first game was very close.
Yes.
It was very close, but there was a feeling like as much as I had tried, the first shuffle out of the box hadn't been quite enough to get all of the.
I mean, that's any first time playing with a board game. I'm sure I've shuffled. Oh no!
Oh no! We're finding nothing but buildings and no critters. And since a lot of this game revolves around like pinging one thing off another.
Yeah, we weren't until like the final maybe 30% of the game. We weren't getting any synergies popping off.
We hit a little seam of critters towards the end, and it was just enough.
Everything popped off at the last minute.
But it was quite low scoring. But either way, fun to get back into the game.
Yeah,
Glad we played it. Very much enjoyed it. Second game we played was with the Pearl Brick expansion.
Yes,
Which is the first major expansion for the game, which actually like changes big things about it.
You have a little frog figurine that can go to special places only the frog can go.
The frog ambassador.
To go collect pearls by doing certain things, and those pearls can be used towards building some like very high point objectives.
The wonders.
Yeah, big objectives that are worth a lot of points if you can pull them off, but you do need to, as soon as you can, get that frog out and about and moving.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you also have the oh goodness. The adornments. You have 2 adornment cards when you start.
Yes.
Each cost a pearl. Neither of us bought either of them.
No. But again, the problem I think was that neither of us got our frog ambassador
Moving
out
quickly
on
enough.
our first season.
Yeah.
Which meant that like we were having to use all of our frog turns we had available just to get our big things done.
Yes.
And we didn't have any excess to be spending on the small things.
No.
Because, like, I think both of us were just a little too slow getting our engine to the point where the frog could start hopping about.
I dared not do too much messing about with that because I could see like I was sort of lagging behind. Like, I had plans to sort of do things. I was going to get one of my adornments. I was going to try and maybe go for another pearl towards the end. And it just wasn't going to happen because, like, you bought the 25-point one, and I was like, I cannot risk.
It really did put you in a position of if you don't buy the 21, you are definitely lost.
Yeah.
It forced the hand a little bit, but, like, it was the only sensible first thing to go for if you've got the pearls for it.
Yeah. I would definitely like to play more of that one. I think it is fascinating, and I think there is quite a layer of depth to that that I didn't quite get to explore.
I definitely think that if I played that expansion again, I would really slow down and take my time with the first season to like prioritize getting the frog out on season 1.
I always think that having a plan specifically for spring, more than any other plan you have for the rest of the game, is the most vital thing you can do the whole game.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Just like whatever you're doing, get something set up that's going to be to make the absolute most of that one season.
Yeah.
Like you can think about the rest later on. Like you can start thinking about the special events, which obviously you're going to need certain critters for, or certain buildings for, or combinations of both, or certain numbers of things. You absolutely need to get on those as fast as possible. I really enjoyed Pearlbrook. The pearls are lovely.
Oh, they're lovely, right?
They've got a lovely weight to them. I think they might be glass.
They definitely feel a little heftier than a plastic component usually would.
Yes. I really enjoyed that. I think there is a great deal more to see with that. We only dealt out 2 citizen and 2 aquatic location cards. We only saw the 2 citizens during the game, and then there's like a whole remaining deck of those cards.
Yeah.
For exploring and stuff to do. So plenty more to be seen. And then we skipped straight on into New Leaf, which is the most recent expansion.
Yeah, this is the one with the trains and the visitors on the trains.
Yeah. I think of all the modes we've played of this so far, this has been my favourite.
I really like this one. So like, you know, there's a few things that this train expansion adds, but I think possibly the most interesting is the ability to pick up passengers with additional objectives that are point scoring things that you may already have done while playing the game.
Yep.
And like there'll be 2 visible at any one time. You can pick up one and discard the other.
Yep. Which means whoever gets the next one, like that's it. If you were both going for a thing and somebody didn't get it fast enough, you can scrap both of those things you thought you were looking at because they are gone.
It adds a real nice scramble to the end of the game of, okay, what's on the table? Do I already have that or nearly have enough for it? And it really changed up how I played like the final season.
Yeah.
In that it was a lot of like, well, if I pick that card up, I would only need 1 card of this type and then I've got it. And yeah, it was a really nice little shake-up.
Yeah, it really was. We played with all of the modules for New Leaf. So we had the train tickets.
Yep. Oh yeah, the train tickets.
So the train tickets, everyone starts with a train ticket. You have an outbound ticket side and an inbound side. And basically for the first half of the game, up until you've prepared for summer, which is the starting the 3rd round, you have an opportunity to flip your ticket over to the outbound side and move one of your already deployed workers to a different place, essentially giving you a whole extra turn.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that is why I like New Leaf so much.
Yeah.
So just to quickly finish that. So then, after you've prepared for summer, you can use the outbound ticket to bring them home again.
Yeah.
Or basically just move another person to another place. And so often with Everdell, it's really got a one more turn thing.
Yeah. Can I squeeze just one more thing in before the change of seasons?
Yeah.
It also synergized really nicely with one of my cards that popped off when the seasons changed, where it allowed me to reuse one of my workers during the change of seasons.
Yep.
So I could move a worker to a different place, get its reward, and then get the reward again as the season changed. And like that was a really nice way of going, I need this thing twice in a row real quick. Yeah. It was a real nice, like, just shuffle the board about option.
Yep. We also had the seals in there, which allowed you to take a card from the meadow or the station and reserve it to one side.
Yes.
So it's just like, it's off the board, but I can buy it, and I can buy it for 1 less resource.
Yeah, like, the reserving was nice, but, like, I think most helpful was the ability to, once per season, have a thing for one resource less than its cost.
Yep.
Because, again, it's very similar to the, I just need one more worker somewhere before the end of the season. Just being able to skim 1 resource off of a card makes so much bigger of a difference than you would think.
It was the first time playing Everdell, I really felt like I could just go absolutely, like, real deep and granular on my tableau. Like, I was putting stuff down that I would never normally dare to play. Things that were basically going to be, you're paying for this now, and you can remove it to make something else cheaper in future. Like, there's a lot of that sort of stuff going down.
It's that expansion really adds a lot of fine-tuning and course-correcting your build options, and I really like that.
Yeah, really liked it, and I really felt like I'd made a really nice dent in my city, or my town. It was the first time, I think, I was happy with the density of my 15 cards city.
Yeah.
Or should I say 16, because I got the road in as well.
Yeah.
But then I also managed to get a farm and 2 harvester and gatherer sets. So there was just so many things in my city.
Yeah,
it was the score difference still wasn't huge.
Yeah, it was a beautiful game. It was delightful.
Yeah, I think of all of them so far, that is my favourite one. Yeah, I am very much looking forward to playing more Everdell, because that is a beautiful, charming game, and the art is beautiful, and despite all of its cuteness, it is still deeply strategic and a real mind melter.
Yep.
Like, because you've got your sort of early, like, okay, I need a basic plan, I'm gonna get myself going, and then you get to the end of winter, and you prepare for spring. And spring is a little bit more movement, and then you've got summer. Obviously, you've got your ticket back to use for another option there. And by the time you're down to the last turn of winter, you're just going, what is the perfect turn? And you can kind of work towards having that perfect turn at the end where everything just pops off. Or even realising that actually you can keep going for much longer than you thought you could with no more workers to put out.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good.
It is a good crunchy game.
What about you? What have you played?
I'm going to briefly talk about a thing I did at the weekend over at MCM ComicCon. I feel like this should go in the played section, but I have a mild conspiracy theory.
Ooh.
So, I went to a little workshop that was going on.
Oh, yes.
At the, I've forgotten what the...
Gunpla.
Yes,
Bandai.
Bandai Namco. They were doing a little Gundam workshop, and they was like, "Hey, here's a little box with a little mini Gundam.
Yeah.
Sit for half an hour and make a Gundam."
Yeah.
And I have a conspiracy about the Gundam workshop kit.
Mm.
Whenever I make Gundam kits, I have a little pair of like clippers. They're flat on one side for like clipping off the rough plastic edges.
Getting your sprues, get them off the sprues.
Because like when you take all the pieces of the robot that you're going to make off of the big sheet that they're all on, they never come off cleanly. They always come off with rough edges that you've got to clip off. Otherwise, they're not going to neatly fit together when you make the final build.
Mm-hmm.
This is not true for the workshop kit.
No.
The workshop kit
requires no glue, no tools.
I mean, in theory, regular Gundam requires no glue, no tools, they advertise, but, yeah, and this was not just me, I was sat with another experienced Gundam person who made the same observation. Every single piece came off of the board of pieces completely perfectly. Just push them off by hand, not that tricky to do, didn't have to do the, like, rotate them in circles to get them to come off. No little spruces still on the end that would stop the pieces
just
connecting together properly.
Fell off.
Just no. That's the thing. It wasn't like they were you had to put a little bit a little bit of force, and they came out cleanly. Where is this tech in regular Gundams? You have the tech, and I feel like you're using the tech exclusively for the workshop kit,
lure them in.
The one that you're trying to use to lure them in. Is it a cost-saving issue? Is it cheaper to have them with spruces on? Does requiring the little clippers make the people making them feel like they're doing more work, and it's to make them feel like they're bigger, smarter people?
Mm-hmm.
There's a conspiracy. You've got the smooth tech.
Give us the smooth.
Give me the smooth tech.
Give me the smooth Gundam.
So that's what I did at the weekend.
Yeah.
I made a very small little Gundam in half an hour.
It's a good Gundam.
Yeah.
We need to put it on the shelf.
We do. I need to make a little TikTok about the conspiracy first, and then it can go on the shelf. Yeah. What about you? Did you play anything else this week?
I started building the Lego Optimus Prime.
Yeah. It is legs.
It is legs, and boy, those legs are dense.
It sure is some dense legs, and also, I guess, a waist.
Yeah,
like
I built the torso
Yeah,
and hips,
yeah.
and that rotates, and pretty much you can turn it into a truck and go, yeah, I can see how that is a truck.
We sort of glossed over this for a second there. This is a Lego Optimus Prime that can transform.
Yes.
It is a Lego Transformer that can transform.
Yes.
It's fucking wild.
And I streamed it, therefore it's a tax write-off.
I mean, you're talking about it here, tax write-off.
Yeah, I'm now reviewing it. I'm having a lot of fun with it, but also I did not, and like I've built big kits before. Like the Millennium Falcon was most of a day, I think I spent building that,
yeah.
and that was a great little project to work on. I did like nearly a 3-hour stream. And I had completed the torso and the legs. And the legs were almost entirely solid plastic.
Yep.
Like, you could club someone to death with those legs.
Yeah, you could. Dense lad.
I assume it's so that he can, like, stand up and be displayed. Which, better than that robot. The remote control Optimus Prime robot. I'll get onto him in a second.
Okay.
In fact, I will get on him in Watched. So, yeah. It's a very cool kit. I'm not sure it's worth the RRP.
How RR that P?
The RRP, I think, is £150. And I did not pay that for it. No. It's a lovely kit. It's looking really good. I have heard from reviewers that one of the stickers in the manual is telling you to put them on upside down compared to the G1 cartoon. So I have put the stickers on upside down, and I compared it to my Earthrise Optimus, and I was like, I think they're right. I think those leg stickers are upside down.
Is that going to be right side upable, or
so it's just a single grey plate that you put a sticker on, and you can.
Oh, that's
you could flip it up the other way.
Oh, that's not too bad then.
But I was like, no, I'm going to put the stickers on upside down because I believe this is correct. And weirdly, I'm not a huge fan of Optimus.
Yeah.
Of all the Transformers, I like the purple ones, and I really like Soundwave. Basically, my love for Transformers is ones with faceplates.
Yes.
Like I like them to have the weird, slightly masked look.
Yeah.
So I do like Optimus's head sculpts.
Yeah.
I do like Ultra Magnus's tiny head rather than his armoured head. And I fucking love Soundwave.
Yeah.
I think it was something about Soundwave's funky voice. I guess it's probably a vocoder. That from the cartoon series that just made me fall in love. I know he's a bad guy, but I can change him into a tape recorder. Ha ha! It's a fun kit. It's bigger than expected. I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to put it when I'm finished building it.
We'll work it out.
We'll work it out. It might go probably on top of the cabinet. Yeah, because I think that's our next place, our next shelf exploration
we'll find
for our robo friends. So many robo friends. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that kit so far, and it has taken every ounce of personal responsibility and strength to not just build the rest of it off stream. Because I was like, well, I've streamed it now, and I'm going to upload this to my YouTube channel eventually. But that means I have to save it for a week.
There's a reason I don't make Gundams on stream.
I was pushing it. Like that stream got considerably later than I usually stream for.
Yeah.
And I was like, firstly, I can't keep talking. Secondly, my ADHD meds wore off and my brain is turning to absolute mush.
Yes, you've reached the loopy time.
I reached loopy time like 10 minutes into the stream.
Yeah, this is the experience I was having when I started on Titration. It was always, I've just started streaming, I'm 10 minutes in. Oh no, where'd my brain go?
My brain has turned to goo. Messaging back to the Titration team, hey, I need help. My brain stops working at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And I start streaming at 7:30.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv/Janiac. Come see me on Thursday. If you're a Patreon supporter of $10 or a month or above, you will still have time to come see me. Otherwise, maybe come see me anyway. Laura, what have you played with?
I mean, the other thing I've been playing, really, if we don't mind the early version of this going up a little late, yeah, I've been playing some God of War Ragnarok.
You've been playing Redacted?
Yeah, Redacted. I've been playing God of War Ragnarok. Yeah, so I've been squeezing as much of this in as I can, because I got this fairly late in the... Well, we're recording this on Tuesday. I've had, like, 2-ish full days to sit and play it.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, it feels like more God of War, like the 2018 God of War reboot. And that isn't a bad thing. That was a very satisfying, very pretty game. This is a very satisfying to play, very pretty game. It is once again a big action game. Do big hitties, cinematic murders. The boy is there to help with his arrow. Where you go, boy.
That of boy.
Yeah. Narratively, it wastes no fucking time with getting to its core premise. I mean, look, I don't think this is a spoiler to say because it's the fucking title of the game. Ragnarok is coming. It's a big end times event, and right at the start of the game, they're like, hey, so Ragnarok's coming, and maybe we should involve ourselves in trying to prevent that, maybe? We should do something about it?
Yeah, just a guess.
I really like the characterization of some of the new gods that you get to interact with.
Yes.
Some of them had been mentioned previously, had been acknowledged, or maybe you'd seen them briefly, but you get to properly interact with them now, and very fun characterization. Some really fun boss fights that are a lot more like self-aware and creative than I anticipated them being. The thing that I've really been focusing on most, because like I haven't had time to finish the game at this point, but the thing I've been focusing on most with my time so far has been accessibility settings. And hey, go look on the Laura K. Buzz YouTube channel to go watch the full 20+ minute long accessibility episode about this.
Oh yeah. 21 minutes and 1 second.
Yeah, Jane did an amazing job editing this on her admittedly fairly tight deadline. Yeah, that. So this game like doesn't quite replace The Last of Us Part 1 as my like benchmark. I would point to as like the most complete example of like a game that is doing the most things correct with accessibility, but it's not fucking far off. And it is an incredible leap for the God of War series, which I went back and looked at the original 2018 God of War's accessibility stuff recently. It barely has controller remapping and very small, like the biggest size of subtitles is very small, and you can maybe change some of the audio sliders. Like, that's about it. Whereas we've now leapt forward to high contrast mode support, though I'll talk about the execution of that in a second. Things like navigation assists, on-screen controller that will sort of show your button inputs to make so that you have visual confirmation of what you've been hitting. Various presets for different kinds of disabilities that really nicely come in different degrees of presets. So you're like, hey, do you need the motor preset? What about the sum motor preset or the full motor preset?
Then you can go and fiddle with it.
Yeah, which is like a step above what The Last of Us has done. Accessibility presets is just a menu option on the main menu. Again, a thing that The Last of Us hasn't done. That's great. A really nice guided setup option where you can either, if you don't need accessibility stuff, just basically skim straight to the starting menu. But if you need accessibility stuff, it'll walk you through that. And it's just like a really clear binary choice at the start for setup. That's really nice. Like, my main problems come from the fact that navigation assistance exists, but it's not as feature complete as it was in something like The Last of Us, and that's a very high bar to be comparing to. Where The Last of Us uses traversal assistance to really do a good job of being able to help sightless or very low vision players navigate, this is not nearly as good. It doesn't... if you click the right stick to be pointed in a direction and then start walking, it won't tell you when you've walked far enough in that direction and need to reorient. It's also not as good at pathfinding, so you can occasionally get kind of stuck on stuff if you're relying purely on that to traverse. High contrast mode, not super easy to see. The high contrast models aren't independently lit of the lighting of the scene, which sometimes makes supposedly high contrast character models pretty tricky to spot. Yeah. But like those are the biggest accessibility like hurdles I would suggest exist. It's still like it's definitely up there in the upper echelons of like video games that are doing better than 99% of this industry in terms of like offering a really robust, well thought through set of accessibility settings. That's really nice. There's a limit to how much I can say about God of War Ragnarok generally, because even at review period, there is a lot of embargoes around spoilers, and I am trying to be better safe than sorry about what I talk about at the second. But what I will say is I've really enjoyed so far the character development for Atreus. I think that there have been some really nice bits of character growth between Kratos and Atreus and their growing relationship, and specifically with Atreus being a teenager who has a parent who is trying their very best to keep them safe, but is maybe holding on a little too tight.
And also has anger issues.
And has anger issues, and also is not giving them much room to make their own choices because they don't want to risk losing them, but obviously that's, teenagers don't respond well to that.
No.
And I think that is a really neat dynamic to explore. Yeah, I really enjoy this video game. It's very good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do my very best to finish it before Pokemon happens. What about you? Have you played anything else this week?
That's pretty much it, really.
Well then, time for this.
The device is ready, Master.
Excellent. Now, run me through the plan again. Let's make sure we've got this really, really down.
Well, your sinister plan, Master, is to overload the world, I understand. To bring us,
yes.
You said you were going to bring your own kind of balance to the world, Master.
Well, yes. I still think this is a good plan. I think that, if the world is as overrun as it is with evil and fascism and all sorts of darkness, I think that the only way we can bring balance to the world is to try and sort of balance that out with some cuteness. So we've got the duck generating laser. Are we ready to start firing off the duck laser?
Yes, Master, I've hacked into the Starlink satellite system, and we are able to fire somewhere in the region of 1,000 ducks per minute down onto the planet's surface.
Wonderful. And the capybara mist?
Well, the capybara mist is being airdropped from planes all around the planet at the moment, and we predict, according to our models, that they will, within the next 6 hours, start to condense into little clouds of brown fur, and then they will become capybaras.
Wonderful. Look, soon my master plan shall come to fruition, and either the cuteness shall balance out the evil, or the ducks will start eating the fascists. And either way, I think we will have achieved the goal.
I mean, I'm very happy if all the fascists got eaten by the ducks. Although that might scare the children. I do like ducks, though.
How scary could ducks be?
Oh, I've got so many duck bites from where I was trying to set up the lasers. They are very cute, though.
Right. We need to get the criteria and the planning sorted of how we're going to get all these ADHD assessments done.
I mean, there seems to be more coming in by the bloody day.
Exactly. So it's a good time to just sort of wipe the whole system clean. And we'll just right from the start, we're going to try and create this system in a way that's going to be efficient and that's going to be a smooth process for the people with ADHD.
Right.
So here's what I'm thinking.
we send emails at random hours of the day that if you don't respond to quickly, if you forget to respond to them, we will kick you off the list. You'll have to start again.
Oh, that's good. We can get them off the list really quickly.
I mean, that's just going to get through the list quicker, you know.
Right.
I mean, look, if they can't remember to do a thing that pops up at random, they clearly don't want it that much.
Okay, well, what about the whole like the pre-assessment before they even get to the full thing? What if we made it 6 different forms that were over 100 pages each?
I mean, what if in particular, several of the questions on those were the same question asked over and over and over to just really, really, really make it as boring as possible.
Well, you're boring and, just difficult for the ADHD brain to handle.
Exactly, just tedious and hard to focus on.
Yeah, so they just give up.
Indeed. So... From there, we've got medication.
Right,
You've got to remember to take it every day.
Right, well, it's a highly addictive medication, so they shouldn't have a problem with that, right?
Exactly. They're definitely not going to forget to take their medication.
Is that a thing that...
Okay.
It's not our problem.
Okay, lastly.
Right.
It's a controlled substance, obviously.
Yes,
so the medication, so...
Yes.
Can't let them have more than 30 days of it at a time,
Oh,
obviously.
oh.
But we also... can't let them pick it up early if they happen to be ready for it.
No,
it's a controlled substance.
We can't have them just running around with
Indeed.
drugs.
So I think what's going to happen is exactly on the day you run out, you've got to remember to go and get more. And if you don't remember, you then won't have medication and will then have to remember to go back and get it at a later point unmedicated.
Oh, that's bloody good. That's bloody good.
Right. I think it's a foolproof plan. I think the people at ADHD will have no trouble with any of it.
Absolutely. You're a bloody genius.
Oh, thank you.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
What have I put in my eyes? I'm having a scroll, seeing what I can find. I watched a thing that TikTok had been showing me clips of for a little bit. I watched a clip of an episode of The Simpsons that was a Death Note parody called Death Tome. I genuinely kind of like this, and I found it interesting, and I've been mulling over this weird Death Note parody for reasons I didn't anticipate. It is animated by the studio that originally animated Death Note, and it honestly looks really gorgeous. And they don't shy away from Lisa, who is our Light Yagami stand-in, killing people. I was pleasantly surprised by that. Weirdly, the thing this keeps making me think about is the Death Note musical from several years ago. Because it's the second adaptation of Death Note in the last, I'm going to say, 5 years, to explicitly sort of rewrite Light Yagami as a character, to have a more empathetic starting motivation, and very specifically to have that starting motivation be anti-capitalist in nature.
Yay!
If any of you aren't aware of the Death Note musical, it opens with a musical number called Where is the Justice, which is explicitly a song about Light being in I think it's implied to be a university class rather than high school, debating legal ethics with a university professor, and very explicitly being like, look, in theory we're all supposed to be equally protected by the legal system, but where is that justice when, politicians, celebrities, people who just have a lot of money can pay for better lawyers, who can find loopholes, who can help them to avoid facing consequences for criminal actions.
Yeah.
In ways that are not afforded to people who are poor. And it doesn't... in Death Note the musical, it doesn't really have much of an ongoing impact on the rest of the narrative. It's just there as a kind of attempt to make Light a little different from the original source material in the anime, where he, by the end of the first episode, has already gone, I killed to protect someone, actually I quite love this, I'm going to rid the world of vermin, all crime will be gone. And it's
quite an escalation.
It's quite an escalation, and if you watch that first episode of Death Note looking for it, Light expresses zero political opinions other than crime as a blanket thing is bad, criminals are vermin and must be eradicated. And you can see where that could be bad. But Death Note the musical tries to stem that at the forefront
Mm-hmm.
by presenting Light as like explicitly anti-capitalist, anti-corporate.
Mm-hmm.
The Death Note Simpsons parody Death Tome weirdly does the same thing. Its opening title crawl, rather than being about like news reports of violent crime going on, is about things like factory farming, the gender reveal party industry exploding things and causing huge wildfires, very explicitly and like very focused on global warming.
That is Lisa's whole thing.
I mean, that's the thing. It totally works for the character, and like they don't shy away from her doing killings. Like the very first killing she does is very much following the template of the original Death Note. Someone is going to do a violent crime. In this case, holding an internet meme cat at gunpoint, and she does kill someone to protect internet meme cat. But after that, entirely her motivation becomes about killing corporate CEOs who are responsible for global warming.
Right.
Mr. Burns has a business that is explicitly trying to melt the polar ice caps so that he can park his yacht next to his house more easily.
Okay.
Despite the fact it's going to flood so many communities.
Yes.
So Lisa kills Mr. Burns.
Good.
And the Shinigami points out, look, that's one CEO. There's an entire board of directors who will continue doing that work and will continue knowfully and willingly, like,
Okay, well, they're
melting
next.
the ice caps. So they're next. And, like, the whole episode is about Lisa killing off this entire board of directors to try and stop
Yay.
global warming. It kind of ends a little abruptly. You get a parody of the, do you remember that early scene where Light and Elle are having the back and forth about, like, Elle is on TV going, I know that you're killing people, and, like, puts out the challenge, and Light's like, I'm gonna try and kill Elle. That little exchange happens, and I won't sort of spoil how it wraps up. It is a fun little parody that, like,
Everything they could squeeze into 20 minutes.
It's 7 minutes. I
wow.
thought I'd been told it was 20, but no, they wedged this into 7 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, I can excuse the very abrupt ending, given it's 7 minutes. I was genuinely really impressed at how much of the core of Death Note they managed to represent, how much they managed to sort of reshape it to fit Lisa as a character, and how they managed to, relatively okay for family viewing, make a rushed narrative about mass murdering corporate CEOs.
Okay. So given that the criteria are manage to squeeze something big into something small
Yes.
and manage to make it relatively family friendly
Yeah.
and manage to make it kind of differently, but
Yeah.
with some of the same things involved. Is it better or worse than the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie?
Oh, so much better. Infinitely better. I would rather watch this any day than... Look, this was 7 minutes long, and it was largely very good, as opposed to 90 minutes of a lot of not great. Yeah, no, like, this is genuinely, like, I was really pretty impressed with it. It didn't shy away from the violence that's sort of necessitated by that narrative.
Yay!
Even if it did, even if the ending is a little bit, we're not going to quite go like Yagami being caught and like being shot and going to hell.
Okay.
We're not going to quite go there, but yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yay!
What about you? What have you watched?
Well, I want to go back to Optimus Prime stuff. So, right next to the Bandai stands
Yeah.
was the Robson stands. They had the, I was going to say remote control, but it's not entirely remote control. The robotic Optimus Prime. Now this, do you know how much this thing costs?
I don't know how much this
It's
thing
a
costs.
grand.
Fuck. I've seen videos about this thing. I would have said like 200 quid at like an expensive top end.
And weirdly, I thought that as well, because my experience of something like this is I worked in a model shop for 8 years, And, like, for a couple of Christmases, the most important thing was Robo Sapien.
Yeah.
And it does that whole looks like it shit itself walk.
Yeah,
and
the
it
little
does
shitty bum wiggle.
Yeah, it does the dabbing poses and a few action poses. It's got some accessories it can hold. I suppose the big thing is the fact that it does in fact transform into the truck.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay. I did not think this thing was going to be $1,000 though.
But I mean,
But I found out some other things about it.
I was gonna say, like, you're paying $1,000 to not have the fun of getting to transform it yourself.
This is an argument a few of the reviewers have made about it.
That's sort of how I feel about it, but tell me what else you learned about it.
So we watched it. They had like 3 or 4 of them at the show, like actually being demonstrated. They were having like kids come and do press-up challenges with Optimus Prime because it will drop and do press-ups, which is, I suppose, kind of impressive. Apparently, like, a lot of it is voice-controlled, but also there is an app that you can have on your phone.
Probably because the voice controls are in...
No, in fact, the app has so you can set programs of arm move this many degrees, and it uses almost do you know Scratch, the programming language?
Yeah.
It uses that kind of programming language to move all the joints around. And it's even in those little colourful blocks to do that kind of thing.
Okay.
And you can do custom things. And you, in an almost Mario Maker-esque way, you can upload your things to the cloud, and then you can download other people's. And some of those don't actually work very well. Like, an example I saw was like trying to do like karate-style actions. And at one point, he thrusts both fists forward and just falls on his ass. Apparently, I didn't see a lot of this at the show, but apparently it glitches and bugs out quite a lot.
Okay.
Like, oh, my wheel is stuck. But it's not saying my wheel is stuck, so the robot's wheel is stuck.
Oh.
So the rest of the time it's Peter Cullen's voice as Optimus Prime, but then you just get this weird, vocoder femme voice that's just like, the wheel is stuck, reset to start again. But the thing that confused me was, so yes, as I agree 100%, it does the transforming for you. You can't play with it because it's you're not really supposed to twist it too much. You can't stand it up for display either.
You can't stand it up.
No.
Surely that's one of its 2 modes, is transformed into standing up.
No, you can have it turned on and standing up, at which point it will occasionally do little poses. If you want to leave it on standby, like in a stopped mode, you either have turn it off and it ragdolls, or it goes into a weird little kneeling position, which is what it was doing in the cabinet at the Hasbro Pulse stand.
No.
Yeah. So you couldn't just put it in a cabinet and have it displayed. It doesn't do that. I need to find who did the review, because I watched this having come back from MCM being like, yeah, you know what, I'm just curious to know more about this product/toy. Okay, it's Thu Adams on YouTube. The Robosyn flagship auto-transforming Optimus Prime review. He absolutely slates it.
As well he should, it sounds like.
And goes into this wonderful thing at the end about, I don't know who this is for, and I don't think I would get on with the kind of people who could afford to buy this.
Yeah.
Like, given the state of the world we live in, this is what you're using the robotics for, really?
Yeah.
We couldn't find some way of making things better. And we're in a cost of living crisis. I don't know who this... The only reason I have this is because I accepted it for review.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, who is this for? Because it's not for people like me and most of the people in the Transformers side of my Discord who want to play with the cool bots. Or at least display their cool bots in standing poses that they can decide.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, they also have a trailer. They've released a trailer for it that transforms.
I would have thought it involved a trailer.
No, you had to buy that separately.
You have to buy that separately
And-
from
and
the
they really-
already $1,000 fucking dollar
Yep.
robot.
Yep. You have to buy that separately because that only came at great public interest in, hey, you should probably do the trailer for it if you're going to do the Optimus. I think the people who had great interest in it didn't know how much it fucking cost.
Oh.
And
My brain is
unlike all
melting.
of these robot things, it's noisy as
My
fuck.
brain is melting.
Oh no. Let's stop talking about the bad robot. Tell us about a thing you have seen.
I watched a couple of interesting things on YouTube this week.
Yes.
I watched a video called Game Freak Accidentally Saved the Ice Type on the YouTube channel Bonus Wolf. This is a video about the upcoming Terastal mechanic in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and in short, how it functions in a way that may make ice types competitively viable in a way they've not really been in a very long time. The short version, contrary to popular assumption prior to previews, it seems like this new mechanic in the new Pokemon games will essentially, like, it'll change your Pokemon's type in terms of what new moves they can do that will be, like, more powerful as if, like, you know, they were that type. It'll change what you're weak against, but it won't take away the strength of the moves that you would already be strong with. Ice-type moves are really strong offensively, but ice types have a lot of weaknesses. The argument being that this seems like it's going to allow ice types to continue doing strong ice-type attacks while changing their weaknesses to a different type that is less likely to get them absolutely, destroyed as a glass cannon. This was from someone who has previously been a Pokemon tournament level doubles world champion, going through a bunch of the more popular ice types in competitive and going, this is you could try maybe changing this one to this type. It would gain access to stab damage on these moves. It would lose these resistances. It was a very interesting video. What about you? What do you watched?
Well, we've talked about the Toy Galaxy channel on this show before. They do breakdowns of popular toys, usually from the 80s and 90s, like action figures or TV series. They've done stuff about G.I. Joe and He-Man and pretty much anything you can think of from that sort of era. They've done a breakdown about the show, the toys, possibly any comic books, and just a history of those things. So they have a second channel. I think it's the second channel. It's hard to tell these days because they've changed some of their branding recently. So the Secret Galaxy channel, which is basically all the same people as far as I can tell, for their Halloween special this year, did The Rise and Fall of Twin Peaks.
Ooh.
And you can tell the person who made it, a guy called Greg apparently, who is behind the scenes on that show, really fucking loves Twin Peaks.
I mean, you really have to really love Twin Peaks to get into making video essay content about it at this point in time.
Yeah, because it isn't even really about the return. It's just about the first two seasons.
Yep.
They briefly touch on the books that Mark Frost wrote, but not even the final dossier. I think just the whatever the one was before that. I've only listened to the audiobook. I've not read the book itself, which is weird for a book that is primarily pictures and breakdowns of those pictures. But yeah, it is beautifully shot. The knockoff music they use is amazing. Because it's all what if we bootleg this? It's definitely legally distinct from Twin Peaks, but you can tell everything about it. The shots are amazing. Just the lighting and the set design they did for it. They did an amazing job making it feel like Twin Peaks and just having a fun breakdown about the first two seasons. That even after all the things I've watched on the subject of Twin Peaks, there were still a few things that I had not previously known. So that was fun. And yeah, I really enjoyed that. As I think it's like 20 minutes long, and I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's 35 minutes long. There you go.
It's not the like 4+ hour long one that we watched however long ago.
Oh, have you seen that yet?
Yeah,
Oh, you did watch it in the end.
yeah, we talked about it at the time.
Yeah, but you said you hadn't watched it.
I did then later watch it and we
Oh,
talked
okay.
about it. I think.
No.
I think we talked
You
about
said
it.
you weren't ready to watch it, and you said you were never going to watch. You weren't sure when you were going to watch it, and we haven't talked about it since.
Oh, I have watched it.
Oh, okay.
I apologise. I thought I had told you this.
Okay, well then I am ready
It was a
to
big
have
time
some
commitment.
conversations.
I thought I made you aware of it.
I'm
at
very
the
ready
time.
to have some conversations about this at some point then.
Yeah.
Yay! Woo. That's the thing I watched. Tell us about the thing you watched.
I know I watched at least one other thing. Let me
Hmm.
find. What did I watch? Oh, I think we both watched this over dinner one night. The What Happened video about Dante's Inferno
Oh,
on
yes.
the Matt McMuscle's YouTube channel.
Yes.
Fascinating little insight into the development of a game that, for some reason, was loosely themed around a piece of sort of philosophical poetry almost, turned into a 3D character action game about
Yes.
murdering creatures in hell, and
Yes.
the development cycle and marketing cycle of that game.
Yeah.
I was aware of the marketing cycle around that game, but it's always fun to be reminded of exactly the depths they went to with the, oh, it's the lust bit of the campaign. Go film yourself doing unconsensual sex acts with booth babes to win a night with one of them. Here's a check being sent to games journalists to see if they're greedy taking bribes.
Yeah.
That whole thing was a lot.
Yeah. Sounds
Oh, yeah,
like
the-
it. I knew nothing about this game.
Oh yeah, no. Yes, the wrath bit of the promotional campaign where they sent out boxes that started making music and wouldn't stop, and then would mock you if you broke them trying to stop the music
You've done
coming
a
out.
wrath.
Oh, you've done a wrath.
Ooh.
All for a kind of mediocre God of War clone
Yeah.
that,
That has very little to do with.
I mean,
Dante's
it's
Divine
set
Comedy.
in hell.
Yes.
It's in hell.
But it's not ripping off the game designers.
It's in hell. What more do you want from the Divine Comedy? It's in hell.
Political commentary.
No! Political commentary, these fists.
Oh, all right then. I will. You there, fists.
So yeah, if you're unaware of the nonsense about that game's existence, go watch that video. It is a good, concise, amusing recap of everything that went down. What about you? You watched anything else this week?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we've sort of skimmed across it. We went to MCM London ComicCon again. We saw lots of amazing outfits and costumes.
We did indeed.
Saw some very good ones. I saw several of those Chainsaw Mans.
Ah yes, Chainsaw Man.
Some good costumes
He's
there.
a man covered in chainsaws.
He is a man just has a lot of chainsaws in, and we had a fun conversation about what the fuck that was all about.
Yeah, what is this this chainsaw guy I keep seeing around?
This man who is chainsaws.
Yeah, chainsaw guy.
With the Pokeball.
Oh yes, I did have to explain to you, Pokeball guy.
Yes. Yeah, there was, as always, amazing cosplays from everyone. There was a very adorable Mimikyu there.
Yeah,
It was you.
Me.
And I was Laverne in disguise as a tentacle again, because I spent a lot of time on that costume. I'm going to wear it to death
Yeah.
and slightly improve it every time.
To confirm, that's what you saw, right?
Yes.
Roughly, yeah, that's Pokeball guy.
Yep.
Sword and Shield.
Yep. I was like, you're the Pokemon expert. Tell me what this clearly a man with a Pokemon for it.
Well, what you said was, is there a kind of Pokeball with eyes on it? And
Did
it
I?
did take, yeah.
Apologies.
And I was trying to think of Pokeball types. It took me a minute to go, oh, with a...
Not
with,
Voltorb.
Oh, with a smiley face as well. Okay, yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
I didn't even consider Voltorb might have been what you meant. I don't know, I zeroed in on Pokeball guy real quick.
You did. You got there. You knew what I meant.
Yeah.
Because clearly your brain went, she knows who Voltorb is. Yeah, lots of amazing people to see, lots of amazing costumes, and there were some good panels. I got to go and stare lovingly at various Transformers, and many of which they're like, yeah, you can just pre-order them on the website. You fucking can't, they're sold out. And they're not even out yet. Just make more of them.
Don't lie to me.
I saw the very bizarre choice of making a holiday-themed Optimus Prime.
Oh yes,
The candy
the fucking
stripes.
candy canes. Yes.
Like, they didn't show you the robot mode for that. They just had the truck out in a cabinet. So I was like, I guess that is a weird candy stripe truck that's an Optimus Prime mold we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And here is all the things I sort of considered but couldn't afford in time, and now they're sold out. Yeah, what else? The Artist Alley was wonderful
Yeah.
as always.
Yeah.
I got Steffi UDP gift.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, as always. It was a little bit wet. I went only on the Sunday. You went Friday and Sunday.
Yeah. It was mildly damp, but
Yeah. I miss the outside Xbox outside extra team doing
Yeah.
Ox Ventures.
I bumped into Ellen briefly on Friday as we were wandering.
One of these days I'll get to go and see a live Ox Venture.
Yeah, one of these days we will make a thing of it and we'll go do it.
Gosh, what else? Yeah, it was an amazing day as always. Have you watched anything else?
We watched a thing together on
did.
Sunday night when we got back from MCM
Because we wanted some low brain effort.
yeah,
stuff.
like I had been playing some more God of War Ragnarok, and then my brain was just like, I'm too tired, I can't focus. What's something no brain we can watch?
What's something no brain that I can kind of pass out to and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, if I fall asleep during this, it's fine. And we settled on watching Bluey.
We watched
a-
the first 17 episodes of season 1 of Bluey.
Yes, a show that like TikTok aggressively promotes clips from this show to me, and I'm like, it seems like genuinely pretty enjoyable.
And then I
pleasant
watched an Eddsworld video about dads
yes.
that also sort of very specifically honed in on Bluey.
Yeah, we had some interesting conversations about presentations of dads in cartoons on the off the back of that video.
Mhm.
And yeah, we sat and watched season 1 of like a bunch of season 1 of Bluey.
We're about halfway through.
Yeah. That show's really sweet.
It's
and
really
wholesome.
sweet and charming.
It's genuinely like very funny in its delivery and pacing.
Yeah.
It's very sweet.
Mhm.
It's got very good wholesome messaging.
Yeah.
Like it's not beating you over the head with the fact that it is trying to instill like positive representations of family dynamics,
Yeah.
but it does so making it seem like it's the easiest thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. There was some really nice episodes in there. There was one about like I think Bluey was struggling to ride a bike, and her dad didn't like try and go over and teach her how to do it, but was like, we're just gonna sit and watch a group of other children trying to do things they find difficult, and eventually finding creative ways to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And
Even if it's perhaps
persevering.
not the way you might have
Yeah.
expected.
And persisting and persevering until they could succeed by themselves.
Yeah.
And not going like, I won't help you if you don't ask, but also you haven't asked and, I think you can do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna...
And not immediately rushing over to step in and do the thing for them.
Yeah, which was really nice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what other ones there were. Like there was some that touched on topics like, one of the dad not realizing he was playing a little too rough with one of the kids.
That's the one
and,
I was
like,
going to mention.
Yeah,
That was very sweet. So Bingo, Bluey's sister, who is a little bit younger, was like, "You are playing with me exactly the same as Bluey, but it's a bit rough for me, and I am only small."
But I am. You are big and I am small, and I'm not very good at confidently asserting my boundaries yet.
Yeah.
And I need help getting you to hear that, like, sometimes I just need you to be a little gentler.
I love the way they talk to each other in that show.
Yeah.
Like, Mum was like, "Okay, I can see that something is upsetting you. Do you want to have a conversation about it? We will go and have a conversation about it. Okay, here is the problem. Okay, we will both go and see your dad, and we will say, hey, a moment of your time, we want to discuss this." And then working out a really positive way to deal with it.
It weirdly, like, I think there's a lot of things about this show that remind me of Bob's Burgers.
Yes.
In that it is a show about a family dynamic where the parents and the children are gonna fuck things up, and like they're gonna get things wrong, and that's okay. And it's okay to acknowledge that screw up and to grow from it and to learn from it and to have conversations.
Yes.
And the way those two shows in very different tones achieve the same thing is very similar.
Because we ended up having a whole conversation about just the way parents had been represented in various sort of cartoons throughout the ages, and how, like, for a lot of it, it was like Gen X wanted to blame their parents for stuff.
Yeah.
And then, and now we have, like, this, we're starting to come into an era of, when, rather than punching up or down, like having a go at our kids or having a go at our parents, what we want to do is, we want to project what we'd actually like.
Yeah, I think, like, the two camps that, like, we were talking about were, like, the Bluey / Bob's Burgers category, where it feels like people modelling the kind of parent they want to be, issues and all, but like trying to be better than they are.
Like, I am human, but I want to be better.
Yeah. Or the only other other comparison I had was Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb, which is very much a like Gen Z representing parent, but like in a positive. I can see that they're really trying their best and like trying to do good. Like it is really interesting, the shift in like particularly like dads and how they've been represented in media.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bluey's just a very sweet show that has characters having conflict and then having conversations and working it out, and also being sweet and funny on the way.
Yeah. And also having just a little bit in there for the adults.
Yeah.
But not in a way that makes anyone feel stupid for not getting why their parents are smirking.
Exactly.
Or sort of going, oh, I see what that's actually about.
Yeah. Again, this is a show that, like, my awareness of it came mainly from the fact that, like, I kept getting served, like, later season clips of, like, episodes that deal with some fairly heavy themes in child-appropriate language. Like, I know there is one at some point about, I think it's the mum's sister who cannot have biological children of her own and is struggling with, I want to be around children, I have a very nurturing energy, but being around children does remind me of the fact I can't have kids, and that's complicated emotions.
Yes.
Like, stuff like that, I'm like, that is brave territory to go for.
Yeah. I've had a few, I think less than you, but I have had a few Bluey clips showing up on TikTok, and obviously I spend a lot of time sitting next to you while you watch TikTok, so obviously I'm getting fed those same content. But yeah, like it has been a really charming show, and I look forward to seeing more of it.
It's a nice new, we need some no brain something in the background.
Yeah. And it's been a busy year. More no brain in the background, please.
Yeah. What about you? Have you watched anything else this week?
Yeah, we watched something together.
We did.
We watched Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, a little 6-episode, 20-minute long little mini-series.
So tiny.
Or I guess 2 3-episode mini-series kind of smushed together. It's a 3-episode story about Ashoka and a 3-episode story about Count Dooku, and they don't hugely overlap.
Not really, no.
They're done in that sort of Clone Wars animated style.
It feels like a slightly upgraded version of the Clone Wars style. It's what I imagine Clone Wars has always looked like. That sort of effect.
Yeah. It is, like, there's not a huge amount of narrative in either of the stories, but I think that they both do a nice little job of slightly fleshing out who those characters are and sort of what their sort of run up to when we first meet them is.
Yeah, because I've not seen Clone Wars, and I've read maybe 2 of the books. I've read 2 books in a trilogy.
Yeah.
And then I just was like, not sure I have the time in my life to get to the 3rd one. That was the Aftermath trilogy. I listened to the audiobooks for that. Fascinating series it seemed to be going to. Yeah, I thought the Ashoka stuff was probably less interesting, but I think because it was trying to say so much about a character that I know so little about.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most of her stuff happens in Clone Wars.
Yes.
So we had, like, the literally from her birth and her first signs of using the Force.
Yeah.
We had a little bit with Anakin while she's training to be the very best, like no one ever was. and we had that whole thing of sort of just in hiding.
Yeah.
So that was just a few dotted moments around there, and then she shows up in The Mandalorian, and that's kind of what I know. What I felt was more interesting was the Count Dooku stuff.
I was going to say, I thought the Count Dooku stuff was not only more interesting, but a more cohesively told single story.
Yes.
It is basically how did Count Dooku go from Jedi to sort of betrayal?
Yes.
Told in essentially 60 minutes. And
yes.
I think they did a pretty good job of justifying, the steady emotional turn of, I can't just do things the way they are now.
Yes, and I think that speaks to, some of the stuff we've been getting in more recent Star Wars things where they've been talking about, hey, the Jedi Council were not necessarily the greatest leaders.
Yes.
They were very stuck in their ways, very stuck in these rules and regulations, and in some ways they weren't always doing the right thing.
This is why I still want a proper Grey Jedi story of going, hey, the Sith are one extreme, the Jedi are another extreme, and the Jedi have their fucking share of problems too.
Yeah.
It's no accident that the Jedi keep sort of being the catalyst for pushing people to the dark side.
Yes.
Because they have zero flexibility on their stances, and that leads to some real problems.
Yeah, and it's one thing to have noble ideals, but the fact that by allowing themselves to be tied up in their own laws in seemingly in several cases, they've ended up being on the wrong side of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, at one point they're being used sort of as a peacekeeping force, but against, I've heard other, whole stories about the Separatist army.
Yeah.
Stuff about that is starting to float up about, there were serious problems with the way people were being treated. And yes, they weren't doing it right.
And I think we're definitely starting to see more Star Wars side stories, with Andor right now and Rogue One, and stuff that explores more of those the stories outside of the big main story. And I think we're getting to an era where we're going to start seeing some more of those stories of the stuff around the Jedi's failings.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I'm not pro-fascist or anything.
Oh God, no.
I'm not agreeing with where Dooku went, but I can see how he was hey, there is a problem with this, and for the longest time, there's been a whole thing around Qui-Gon of being, he was a bit of a rebel, all that Qui-Gon, wink wink, nudge nudge, but also he was supposed to be some really good things. Let's put Liam Neeson out of the picture as much as possible here, but the fact that Qui-Gon was he did all the good things for the most part, and he believed in the right things, but was often, getting the ire of the council for a number of reasons.
Yeah, and I think the way to put it is, I am certainly not saying the Jedi and the Sith are equally as bad as each other.
No, I'm not centristing this at all.
Yeah, I'm not saying the literal space Nazis and the a bit religiously strict, but they're aiming for the right thing, but kind of fucking up.
I'm not saying those are the same.
No, but there is certainly room for being critical of the Jedi and finding exploring that maybe they aren't always perfect.
I mean, well, let's talk quickly about that first Dooku episode. So he has been sent, or he has gone off his own back to try and find the son of a senator, is it? Or son of an ambassador?
Yeah.
Who has been seemingly abducted by these villagers. And he and his Padawan get to this village, and, all it is around the village is burnt trees and scorched earth, and these people living in the worst of conditions, and they're like, yeah, we abducted the kids because we want structural change made.
And specifically, like, the kid being like, I am okay with being kidnapped. I am genuinely okay with this. If this helps these people get the change they need...
Having seen what this is like...
having now seen it with my own eyes, I want to be here. I want to force my father's hand.
Yes. And then his father turns up in a pith helmet.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yes. Willing to absolutely murder whoever he needs to, rather than stop and have a conversation with his son about the conditions of these people.
Because he doesn't want the conditions to get any better, because he wants to have slaves and whatever else.
And that, like, Dooku's mission, he was sent there by the council, was...
I thought the point was he wasn't sent there, he was kind of there off his own back. Because doesn't one of the characters say, like, does so-and-so know you're here? And he's like, nope.
Yeah, you might be right.
Oh no, I think it's the father doesn't know he's there.
Yeah, that was my
so
thought.
It wasn't necessarily the Jedi Council that sent him. I don't know. Yeah. I might have missed bits there.
But either way, that like, yeah, he was told he was doing the wrong thing by trying to protect these villagers, and like, you know, was very much, at least after the fact, criticized by the Jedi Council for trying to step in and protect those people.
Yeah, people who had basically nothing and were being, you know, basically living under a feudal lord who just wanted to exploit them for as much as he could, to their death, that they meant nothing to him, just as a resource. And then, obviously, the story moves on from there. Now, going to a Sith Lord, or being swayed by a Sith Lord, like, I can see where a Sith Lord got in there and was like, yes, I can give you the power to empower the weak, and then just not doing that, because that's how Sidious do. Like, I can see how he got to a point of being swayed, at least away from the Jedi, if not as, I guess I joined the Sith.
Yeah, I can see how he got to a point of, I am disillusioned with the group that I have dedicated myself to.
I can't see how he got to being Count Dooku in episode 2, but like, I mean, you know, I can see some progression at least of...
Look, as soon as, like, you know, you're being told you're doing everything wrong by the people you idolized, and then a right-wing fascist group comes in and goes, no, you're actually very good, we'll love bomb you and support you.
Yeah.
Like... That's how the fucking alt-right pipeline loves to operate.
That is how the alt-right pipeline... But what you need then is somebody to come along and just go, fuck you, Nazi, punch, punch, punch.
Yeah. So yeah, we watched that.
We watched that, yeah. And it was fascinating, and maybe we get more short stories?
Yeah.
Have you watched anything else?
I think that was it for me, really.
Okay, I watched two things that I will quickly talk about. I watched the two most recent episodes of Doctor Who. One of which I didn't even know had come out.
I'm aware of some stuff to do with the most recent one. I'm aware of the regeneration that happens, and that is confusing given that we've had a next Doctor announced. That's my awareness of Doctor Who.
That bit, right.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
I'm vaguely aware of that.
That's fair. I think that has been largely spoilt for a lot of people already, so I guess that's not a big thing, but... something happens, and it isn't what's been announced.
Yes.
But also, considering I recently saw an interview with that person being like, hey, it is really important to me as a Rwandan person to be able to be put into this thing that is so fundamentally British and is a cornerstone of British television that I am accepted to be in that. That's awesome. That is awesome. I look forward to...
I look forward to when you become part of the block.
I hope you get your turn soon. I'm guessing they're probably going to do the festive episode, and then...
My understanding is we're getting 6 episodes.
Oh, 6 episodes,
We're getting 6 episodes next year before it swaps over.
Okay, well...
But...
sure?
I guess.
Sure. So I watched the Legend of the... Sea Devils? So it's a Sea Devils episode. They still look kind of puppety. But I'm kind of glad they haven't super shied away from that whole... this is what we made the puppets look like originally.
Yes.
Like, okay, the eyes are a bit more realistic, and the costumes look a bit more technological, but ultimately, like, that character design has stayed. And there's some interesting writing in it, some fun stuff. There is a really cool ghost ship in it. Just a weird flying ghost ship, and it looks amazing.
Cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that episode. I know a lot of people have had a problem with Chris Chibnall's writing, and I think he was the main writer on that, but I kind of enjoyed that story. Then I watched Power of the Doctor. Basically, I'd heard a lot about Power of the Doctor. I was like, fuck it, before it gets entirely spoiled for me. I enjoy a Doctor Who. Fuck the BBC. But there are places online you can watch these things.
No, you definitely didn't do, because that would require a TV license.
On YouTube. People upload shit to YouTube all the time.
I mean, that is a thing they do.
Yeah, so... But no, fuck iPlayer. That thing's awful. It was awful even when I had a TV license and I watched it legitimately.
Yeah, it's not a good functional service.
It's not good.
No.
It's not good. Sometimes it just crashes and then loses your place. I mean, I don't know if they've improved it in the last decade, but it's been a while. But yeah, like, Doctor Who is the only thing that I have given a fuck about even before I stopped watching television. But yeah, it was a fascinating episode. It's like an hour and a half, so it's a good old TV movie. And so there's been a thing a lot in the last few years of we're just going to bring people, like, back from previous stuff. Like, we had the Sarah Jane Chronicles. I suppose that was probably a decade ago now.
Oh, God, yeah.
And that was like a whole callback to, Tom Baker, who's, 3, I think?
Yeah.
Oh God, am I bad at this? 3 or 4. Wow. I used to be so into Doctor Who and know so many facts. But yeah. So there has been a whole thing of that, and there's been another whole thing of for any special episode we can, we'll get as many of the remaining living Doctors together, and we'll stick them in somehow, and it'll be like a flashback or a hologram or something or other to get that together. This episode particularly combined Tegan, who was with Peter Davison, and Ace, who was with Sylvester McCoy. So I was very young when Doctor Who first went off the air. I was like 9, I think. And Ace was one of those characters who was quite formative for me as a child, because she was a badass woman on television, and we didn't really see quite enough of that. Like, there was still, because of reruns and television of that era, just like a lot of 70s stuff where a lot of women were seen to be quite meek or quiet or loud and obnoxious. Rarely did women on TV get to be absolute fucking badasses.
Indeed.
And Ace absolutely got to do that. So baseball bat in hand, she's got a jacket. Sophie Aldred is looking good for however many years she is old at this point. And there was a scene where she ended up talking to Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor, and I had a little cry because it was like, oh my, that's a whole thing I would never expected to have seen happen again. And I feel like maybe they've done stuff together for Big Finish, but I have fallen out of track with Big Finish a while ago. There was a while when I was listening to tons of their stuff, and now I just don't have time. And I feel like there is so much content at this point that I could never possibly catch up with it, because you think podcasts are difficult, but like a 3-hour serial, and they're bringing out more content pretty much constantly for everyone, and I'm usually willing to absorb just about any Doctor Who content there is. So yeah, it was a cool episode. Interesting to see certain characters returning for that, certain versions of certain things returning. A whole plot line that I'd completely forgotten about Gallifrey and Daleks. Do you know about the Time Lord Daleks?
Vaguely,
There was a whole thing that happened a while ago. I'd completely forgot that was the thing. I was like, why are they regenerating? And then I looked on the wiki, I was like, oh, I have seen that episode a long time ago, and I don't think it was good enough to hold my attention, because it all seemed to have slid out of my ear. But, yeah, 2 good episodes, curious about that ending, and fascinated to see more stuff. Fuck the BBC, and don't use iPlayer.
Yeah.
Yay! What you said you watched nothing else?
Yeah, I think that's it for me.
Well then,
Time for this.
Laura, I've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you like doing this little snuggy snug?
Oh, I do.
Do you like being cozy? Do you like being a cozy little bean?
I mean, I do, particularly at this time of year when it's so cold out and I just want to wrap up under multiple blankets and stay where it's warm.
And like, especially, since it's more expensive to put the heating on, why would you get out of the one bit of the house that is warm?
Stay in the place where, I've spent, 8 hours building up body heat.
Yeah, I've worked on that warm.
I've been trapping good body heat in here.
Right, I did that, but that body heat was expensive. I need to keep that all wrapped up in here. Well, what if you didn't have to get out of the bed?
Well, I have so many things around the house that I need to do that require me to not be in bed, though.
Well, that's where our new sponsor comes in, you see.
Ooh.
Try winterbodydouble.lol.net.
Tell me more.
You can pilot this mechanized facsimile of yourself around your home in VR. So you don't have to get out of your warm, cozy bed on winter mornings. You can just stay in. You can do snugs.
Oh.
You can maybe go downstairs and make yourself a cup of tea and have that cup of tea in bed and just sip warm.
I mean, I'll probably take the VR headset off to drink the cup of tea, then put it back on.
Maybe a little straw. Sip warm.
Sip warm.
Sip warm.
I mean, this does sound like a great idea. This is a rare sponsor I'm very excited about.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could even get your pilot to come and sit on the sofa and watch the TV, and you're just right there, virtually watching TV from the comfort of your own snuggy bed.
Oh, this sounds delightful.
It even has a little Hoover attachment, and it will just lift you up at the sides and hoover any crumbs out from under you from where you've been eating spring rolls in bed.
Yeah.
So that's winterbodydouble.lol.net, enter the code Q&PS 235, and you can get 10% off the software for a winter body double. You will, I think, have to still order the body double separately. I think that's less than the robot Optimus Prime, so you're probably okay. I don't know if it does push-ups, though. I don't do push-ups, so it's probably doesn't need to do push-ups. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been brainstorming.
Right.
I've been brainstorming ways we can try and fix our public image a little bit.
Right.
Because, we love to do the whole thing where we hire people, work them to the bone, fire them as soon as they're, starting to flag and run out of energy.
Yeah, once we use them up, we wring them out like a wet towel.
Yeah.
And then we just throw them in the bin.
Exactly. But the problem is, they then, sometimes go and leave and go, we got worked to the bone by Supremacy Software and then fired after we finished all the work.
Right.
Supremacy Software is very bad to us.
Right. So what you're saying is we need to work them until they're not capable of that anymore.
I mean, look, we can try and do that, but that's a very fine line to walk, because, we might work them too far, and, now they're not working and on payroll still until we get them fired. So,
oh, no, I meant past that.
Well, look, here's what I was thinking. I was thinking we maybe just, maybe we can logistically make it so they can't say those things about Supremacy Software.
Right.
So
they're still under NDA.
I mean, we can always try and make them sign an NDA that lasts a long time after they get fired,
Well, you said not fired, so...
Well, see, I'm not saying not fired.
Right.
I'm saying we didn't fire them.
Right.
I'm thinking we introduce a new company structure, possibly.
Right.
Some kind of elaborate system where they're not technically employed or fired by us.
Oh, right. So they're independent contractors.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking we put some middlemen in the middle. So we hire someone who hires someone who hires a guy called Steve, and technically they don't work for Supremacy Software, they work for Steve.
Right.
And Steve hires them to work as contractors in the Supremacy Software offices.
Right.
And then when they get fired, that's because Steve fired them.
Right.
They were employees of Steve.
Right.
So Supremacy... I want to get it to a point where if they want to leave and say, Supremacy Software mistreated me, Supremacy Software is where I worked, Supremacy Software fired me.
Defamation, libel.
Exactly, it's defamation, it's libel. We never employed them, we never fired them.
Yeah, you want to leave, you leave Steve.
Yeah, exactly. You might have worked for Steve. Steve might have fired you.
That's Steve.
You
what
might
a
have
bastard.
You might have worked in Supremacy Software's offices, but we weren't your employer. Steve was.
Steve's such a bastard.
I know.
He treats them so badly.
Fucking Steve.
Fucking Steve. I mean, I like the cut of Steve's jib. Can we hire Steve?
No. Well, I mean, that might kind of defeat the whole point of what we're trying to do.
Right. Yeah,
But,
but you gotta admire the guy, right?
I mean, I do admire Steve.
Steve is a fucking genius.
I know.
So, what have you been in your ears?
It's a boring week for stuff I've listened to this week.
Yeah?
I'm going to sum it up in two things.
Oh.
Pokemon soundtracks and My Chemical Romance. I am excited for Pokemon to be coming out soon, and I'm hyperfixating on My Chemical Romance. That is the week. That is the week in listened. There is nothing else. It's Pokemon and MCR.
I mean, those are the important ones.
What about you? Have you listened to things of note?
I have listened to a couple of things. I don't know how notey they are. So, last week I ranted a little bit about the Welcome to Night Vale having an episode that's specifically about what happens after the first novel.
Yeah? So you went and listened
So
to
I went and tracked down the audiobook and listened to that. It's alright.
Do you feel less like you've missed out now?
I feel less like I've missed out now.
Hooray!
But also like, I mean, it was alright. I don't think it was brilliant. I enjoyed it enough.
It
tied up some loose ends, I guess.
I remember enjoying it when I listened to it at the time, but also being very...
Having no blood.
I mean, I remember being very aware of the fact that it was people who had excelled at making short-form media taking their first steps at making that long-form. And that is always going to be different. Like, you can't one-to-one something into a longer format.
Yeah.
And some stuff gets strengthened by the longer format, some stuff gets weakened. I don't think this gets weakened a lot by being longer form. Definitely gets weakened somewhat.
I think it helps that Night Vale has always had that, like, fortnightly, at most, release schedule.
Yeah.
I think it helped that I was listening to the audiobook because I was listening to the way certain bits were being read, and I was like, this really only works in Cecil's voice.
Yes.
Like, the very precise radio language in a lot of it really feels like it is only written to be spoken by Cecil. Like, it is an extended script.
Yes.
And I don't know how well that would read.
As someone who has read portions
it's
of it...
over there on the back. Yeah,
as someone who has read it as a book, as well as listening to the audiobook, I think if you are like me, and are someone that can imagine voices and sounds in your head, I had zero trouble reading that in Cecil's voice. It is written in a way where my brain found it very easy to go, I can just hear Cecil saying all of this in my head.
Yeah.
More so than any other book I've ever written, I was like, oh, I'm reading a voice here.
Yeah. And even the bits when it's not the voice of Night Vale chapters. But the story is... I think the fact that it has to maintain that level of Night Vale weirdness constantly for 400 plus pages.
Yeah.
Does make it a little bit of a grind towards the end. And also just the way that certain things are in that writing style, things get a little bit repeated sometimes.
Yes.
And then at the same time when you've got stuff, it's like, and then this just happened.
Yes.
They didn't quite understand how it happened, but the next moment this thing had happened. I mean, that's narratively helpful, I suppose.
It's been a while since I've listened to it or read it, but the comparison that I kind of want to make right now is what I think worked really well about the Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared TV show adaptation was that it did get longer in format, but it wasn't afraid to have moments of downtime from the intense weirdness. And I feel like the Night Vale novel doesn't necessarily do that.
No.
It tries to hit that Night Vale note and stay there the entire time.
Yeah.
As opposed to having moments of, actually, this is very calm and normal so that the peaks feel, to be in contrast.
Yeah. And I think by virtue of it being, 8 hours worth of audiobook, 9 hours worth of audiobook, and it keep repeating the things of, just remember to talk into any microphone concealed clumsily around your house so that the secret police can hear you. And the Ericas get brought up a lot. And the giant planet gets brought up several times. And it's just I think I can work out roughly where this is in the show. But also, this is... It's almost starting to grate on me a bit, and I don't know if that's because of the density of the book itself, or because I've listened to so much Night Vale recently.
I feel like...
It could be a bit of both.
I feel like maybe a bit of both. I feel like part of it is maybe because they have to tell an entire book's worth of narrative while largely keeping to a very small set of topics and plot threads to minimize the amount that is happening that is being missed out by the podcast-only listeners. And as such, there is a lot of, okay, we can do these plot threads and not have that be a big deal. We're going to keep coming back to them and keep hitting on them because they are the points that, if we stick to, we're not alienating other listeners.
Yeah. It did feel a bit drawn out towards the end. I think maybe if it was 100 pages shorter, it could have done with that. Because there are a few times where it's just yes, and I know this fact about this book because you've already told me several times. And in a podcast where old woman Josie, who lives with the angels, but we don't talk about angels, comes up once or twice per episode, and then it's not on for 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
That's fine. But when it's happening every few pages of, the angels, but we don't talk about the angels.
Yes.
And, Diane's son changes into different shapes all the time.
Yeah.
But we'll just go on and on and on about that.
The podcast can dip in and out of all of its weird little threads, and it can introduce new ones, and it can play around with the whole set in a way that, keeps them rotating on separated enough a rotation that you can't get away with if you are trying to make a book out of a limited number of these things because you don't want to spiral the canon outside of the podcast.
Yeah, and I also didn't think that the ending was particularly satisfying.
Yeah.
I was yep, that explains all of those things. Good for you, buddy.
Thumbs up to you.
And then I re-listened to the episode that I'd previously been ranting about. I was it didn't matter, really, ultimately.
Yeah.
It's that whole episode says very little, and I think maybe that's what irritates me about it. That episode just says so little.
I mean,
it's we all know the thing.
I mean, the episode is trying to do. It did exactly
Buy the book.
The episode did 110% exactly the thing it was designed to do, which is it made you feel like you'd missed out and go listen to the audiobook.
That's true. They got me. Have you listened to anything else?
No.
Just the
Pokemon and MCR.
There have been 2 new releases on the Magnus Archives podcast feed.
Have been, yes.
So I haven't got round to finishing off the Rusty Fears stuff yet. I will get back to those, don't worry, and I will report on them back to you listeners, don't you worry. There are 2 new things, both in the same universe. So, technically 3, I guess. So the show is called 9 to Midnight, and it's a collaboration from about 12 different spoopy podcasts.
Yes.
And the overriding theme is there's a group of people and they are meeting up in an abandoned amusement park and they're just going to tell scary stories. And there's like a little bit of setup of, oh, last year we went somewhere else and did a similar thing. There's some conversations about urban exploration. And then ultimately it gets into, we're going to tell spooky stories. Why have we come to this particular weird theme park? Didn't you invite us here? I didn't invite you here. Didn't somebody else invite us here? No. Then who brought us here?
The invites are coming from inside the house.
Inside the theme park. And then the theme park sort of comes to life. An announcement comes over the air in a voice that I'm pretty sure is Alexander Janiel. And talks about, hey, if you go this way, why not tell stories about the real world? And if you go this way, why not tell stories about dreams? And that's like a 10-minute pre-podcast. And then you have two separate ones that are like an hour or so each, or maybe slightly less than that. And one of them is specifically stories seated within the real world that is supposed to have happened to that group of people, and the others are all about sort of weirdly fantastical things. And understandably, the real world stories are perhaps a lot more unsettling than the dream ones. Like,
that is often the way of horror.
yeah, like with Magnus Archives, someone asked him in one of the Magnus Archives fan pages the other day, like, how scared are you by the Magnus Archives? I was like, not really.
I mean, look,
I don't
I'm
listen to it to be scared.
I'm not really scared at all when it's like a episode about a supernaturally thing, but like then you'll sometimes get like that one episode that was about Martin going through dementia, and I'm like, oh,
I think that's
no.
I was trying to remember what the episode was. I remembered that there was one episode in season 5 that had really like started to spin me out a bit, and I think it might have been the hospital one.
Oh, the giving you a bunch of injections you don't understand.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Like bad doctors and
Yes.
bad medication.
Yeah, that one was a lot. The I don't remember who I am or who you are or
Yes.
where I am was a lot.
Yes.
It's the real world ones that shake me.
Yeah. But there are some genuinely unsettling stories. Like, there's one about a guy who always wakes up in the morning with his dog licking his face. And I'm not going to tell you where that goes, but it's really fucked up. There's another one about a dog where it's the situation was my dog was weirdly human. It had weirdly human eyes, like a lot of the whites of the eyes were showing. And that sort of gave it a weird human characteristic. And I swear this dog always used to tell me to go to bed. And then one day I had a friend who had to come and stay with us for a while. And he would always give my dog a little bit of food, because she'd always sit there staring at him. And it would always be like, one bite for me and one bite for you. And that story goes some fucking places. Yeah. There's a story about a guy who's hearing noises in his apartment, always seemingly sort of from the left-hand side. And that is just a really unpleasant story, just like a thing I had a genuine phobia about as a child. Because of a misunderstanding about the name of an insect. And yeah, there's the whole series or mini-series is
Intense.
really well done, very intense, and I am maybe curious to try and track down some of the mentioned podcasts, so I guess that also did its job.
Yay!
So it's called 9 to Midnight. The first one is called Terrors of the Real World. The second one is called The Horrors of Our Dreams. And those are both available, or all 3 parts are available on the Magnus Archives podcast feed. And you've listened to MCR and Pokemon.
Yeah. Well then, time for this.
Meow, meow, meow. Humans have done the ritual again. Meow. is the time is not the same as it was.
No, they're all dressed up in the weird clothes and the skulls and the spoopy and the pumpkins, and now the time is wrong.
Now I don't get fed when it's dark now.
It's
I get
dinner
fed
time.
after dark time.
It's dinner time, but it's not dinner time, and I am not sure for twilight food eating.
It's not the same time that I'm always fed, and now
No.
it's the food robot feeds me at a different time. I don't like it.
I don't like it. The food robot does not feed me the same way. Can we stop their unholy ceremony for next year, maybe, Meryl?
Maybe if we scratch at their unholy rituals, scratch the floors, break the ritual circles.
Meow, good time, meow. I'm hungry.
We've all been there, right? You're at a party. Hey, do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
Oh, how personal's it gonna be?
That's the problem, isn't it? You don't know how personal it's going to be. You don't know if that's a bad faith actor. Introducing the bad faith detector keyring. If someone starts asking you questions that you're not usually comfortable answering, just click the discrete button and it will vibrate in different patterns to tell you if it's a good or bad faith question.
That sounds super useful.
Sign up today and get the Bad Faith Detector Plus, which will give you a different buzz to let you know if that person is just being polite or if they're also gay and trying to flirt with you.
Oh, thank you.
Bad Faith Detector Keyring. You probably need it. Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
All right, Barry, how you doing?
Oh, not bad, mate, not bad. You not so much?
Oh, I've been watching some ridiculous go down on social media this week.
Yeah,
well,
it's chaos out there, mate.
oh, it is, but there's a particular bit of chaos that caught my attention.
Yeah.
So, you know how the anti-trans lot have been, for many years now, very openly cozying up with the far right.
Oh,
and
right,
you
and
know,
they were the fascists, yeah.
the Christian American right wing, you know.
Well, yeah, not just the Christian, but, some of the openly, more fascistic elements, the certain journalists who probably shouldn't be named, certain, right-wing politicians who definitely shouldn't be named.
Yeah, but I mean, and not only just, buddying up with them and siding up with them because they happen to also be anti-trans, but also accepting very large amounts of money to fund their anti-trans shit.
Oh, yeah, Heritage Foundations.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's, yeah. But this has been a thing we've known has been happening for years.
Oh, yeah,
it's been a very open thing. It's not been a
so
secret.
queer people have been saying it for a while, trans people have been saying it for a while, and then I think it seemed weird. There was that whole, the Posey Park thing in London, I think it was a couple of months back.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of Proud Boys at that, or certainly fascistic types at that.
And at the time, if you watched all of the anti-trans lot, they were actually very positive about it. They were very like, oh yeah, well, as long as they're here to support the cause, protecting women like us, blah, 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 all that bullshit. So,
at any cost,
Yeah.
we're all united against, the way the right wing do, like to cozy up together until one of them becomes useless to the other.
Well, here's the thing. Mainstream audiences seem to have picked up on the fact that the anti-trans people are cozying up with fascists.
Yeah.
And you're starting to see, and I'm not going to name names, but you're starting to see prominent figures in the anti-trans community try and play shock and horror, like, oh my goodness, I had no idea, but apparently some of the anti-trans community, not me, and some fringe members of the anti-trans community, have been cozying up with fascists. I am shocked. I am horrified. I am appalled to see that they would do this. And I look at these things happening, and I'm just sort of, no one fucking believes you. No one believes you. You are lying through your fucking teeth. Like, if you see this bullshit going on, just fucking call it out for what it is, because these people are trying to distance themselves from the very fascist alliances they willingly made.
Yeah, you have to remember that if you are at a gathering and someone turns up in fascist garb or wearing fascist symbols and they don't immediately get the shit kicked out of them, then you are at a fascist event. There's no getting around that. We've seen that for a while. We've especially with the anti-trans lot, more online, but certainly in the last couple of months they've been very publicly out in force together at various rallies and meetings, and Yeah, it's funny how that was perhaps a step too far for some of the people who were like, yeah, I do just have genuine questions, and you have loved me into sort of going along with your thing. And now I actually see that, you really are just hanging out with actual literal fascists, and I'm not okay with that.
It has been interesting recently to see some of the Mumsnet types going, I feel uncomfortable with how buddy our community is with particularly misogynist fascists, going, why, we have started to see some of the newer, people in those converts being like, wait a second, if the only people who are willing to stand with us on this are fascists that hate women, maybe this isn't the pro-womanhood movement we've been led to believe we're in.
Yeah, which makes it an interesting change, because I do remember a couple of years ago we were seeing, for some reason the only people that are willing to stand with us are the fascists, but welcome along, comrade, they seem to be saying, and now that tune is starting to change a little bit. It's all becoming a bit too real for them, perhaps.
Look, it's getting enough of a problem they're having to acknowledge and try and distance themselves from it themselves. Don't let them deny, and don't let people forget that they are fundamentally a movement that was more than happy to work with fucking Nazi fascists if it meant tearing down trans people.
Yeah, collaborate, as we call it.
Yeah. Ugh. That's your hug.
I love one, mate. Yeah. Good hug, mate, good hug. Right, I'll go put the kettle on.
Oh, sounds lovely.
Nice.
So, Laura, tell us about book that you do.
Book I do.
Book you do. You've done books.
I've done books, and I'm doing books at the moment.
Yeah.
Me and My Dysphoria Monster, it's out now. Gender Euphoria, it's out now. Things I Learned from Mario's Butt, it's out now. Uncomfortable Labels, it's out now. We did one together that's coming in like February. Tell us about that one.
That one's called Who Hunts the Whale, and it's basically the shenanigans of Supremacy Software, and how a year in the life of working at Supremacy Software would go when you are a new person there and you were kind of wowed by the whole video game industry, and you want the video game industry to be good, but if you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know what Supremacy Software is like. Imagine that. Yeah. It's funny and silly and serious, and we've read it through 6 times in the course of writing the book, and it still makes us laugh, so that's a good sign. Although, more and more every day we just go, oh, the games industry, stop stealing our ideas. This is supposed to be a dystopian novel. In places. Where can we find you on the internet?
Laura K. Buzz. Just everywhere. Laura K. Buzz. Laura K. Buzz. Laura K. Buzz.
Twitter,
Laura
Twitch,
K. Buzz.
YouTube, TikTok.
Patreon. That's all that pays the bills. Is Laura K. Buzz. Where
Laura
about
K. Buzz.
you?
I can be found at linktree/Janiac. That's linktree.ee/Janiac. JANEIAC. You can find my Redbubble, where you can get cool, queer, and pleasant strangers t-shirts. And spoopy t-shirts, and all sorts of... There's one that's just Laura jumping out of a butt that says butts on it. and all sorts of fun designs that I have done. And I need to buy more of my own shirts, because I love them. There's the Neurospicy chart. That's one of my favourite shirts. I have one of those. It's brilliant. My most important one is patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify a 76-hour work week. You can sponsor me for over $10 a month, or $10 a month or more, and you can get early access to Queer and Pleasant Strangers and anything else I happen to release. And that's all the things. I also make music under the name Bedroom Programmer. Check it out. I'm hoping soon to be able to make more music, because I really, really want to. Laura, will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.